take a little bit of time here to talk about something else which I thought was very intriguing in your book, that there are some institutions which we don't think of as secret societies, but you make the claim that, for example, the Church of the Latter-day Saints, the Mormon Church, that has a strong Masonic connection, and that the symbols and the traditions of a lot of Freemasonry, or at least the practices of Freemasonry, are still alive in the church today. Can you make that connection?
Sure. I mean, it all goes back to Joseph Smith himself, founder of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, what we call the Mormons. If we understand that America, in the first couple of hundred years of its existence, was steeped in esoteric arts. There was the governor of Connecticut, Winthrop, who was very involved in alchemy and the Hermetic sciences and all of that. And this is long before even the Salem witchcraft trials, became famous. There was a lot of this involvement by the early founding fathers before the Revolution in things of this nature. There was a widespread literature on this that was available to a lot of people. And Joseph Smith, in the very early 1800s, was involved as a farm boy, was involved in rituals of what we call ceremonial magic. He was drawing talismans, drawing magic circles. He had implements that he took with him. He would go out to the woods near his home and essentially conjure angels or spirits to visible appearance, in an effort to find buried treasure. And this was something that was going around. This was a kind of practice that a lot of people did. Joseph Smith had what he called a seer stone. This was like a crystal ball that he would gaze into to discover secrets and to talk with the spirits. Joseph Smith was heavily involved in the occult as a young man, as a young boy, and as a young man. And then later, it was his practice of these rituals that led to the creation of the Book of Mormon. He claimed that the angel Moroni had appeared to him, shown him the tablets and the scrolls on which the Book of Mormon was written in hieroglyphics, and then he would write down the Book of Mormon, and then the tablets would go back into the ground or back to the angels, and the Book of Mormon was written based upon these rituals that he performed in the woods of upstate New York.
Now, let me just jump in and ask, what's your source material for that?
Probably the best source material for this is a book by D. Michael Quinn about the magic and Mormonism. It's a huge volume, heavily referenced, footnoted, with photographs of some of the talismans that Joseph Smith owned that were on his person when he died. He was killed by an angry mob. Some of the things that he was carrying are represented there. Some of the books and materials that he used are there. This is not a secret. The Mormons had liked to keep it a secret for a long time, but it eventually came out, and Michael Quinn himself, I think, was chased around the country a little bit. The Mormons were very upset with the fact that he published this very comprehensive source book on this material. There's no doubt about it. Part of the famous Mormon murder case of about 20 years ago or so was based upon the fact that a forger had come up with what he said was a letter that implied that Joseph Smith was conjuring demons. And the Mormons paid a great deal of money to get this letter back and put it in the archives. Later it was revealed to be a forgery. But the Mormons were aware of this. They are still aware of this information. It's there. And then later on he became involved in Freemasonry, and this was very unusual also.
Yeah, and I think this must be public knowledge, because you have this, this would have been, it seemed like at the time, even something which would have been known in his lifetime, that he had become a Mason, and that several other people within the Latter-day Saints movement joined at the same time he did.
This is also quite public knowledge. In fact, it was the Mormons at one point who had the largest Masonic lodges in the state of Illinois. I mean, Joseph Smith, after he became initiated, began initiating like crazy. So there were a lot of Mormons brought into Freemasonry at that time.
And then the question is begged, though, so what? Okay, so he becomes a Freemason like a lot of other people of faith do, and create this sort of universalist bond of brotherhood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what is that? Where does that lead in terms of where you think the Mormon Church goes?
Well, there's a couple of points I should make. The first one one is, Joseph Smith was the prophet of Mormonism. He created that religion. Now, can you imagine Muhammad becoming a Freemason, or Jesus becoming a Freemason, or Moses becoming a Freemason? You know, so that there is something that you have to sit back and stop and say, well, you had a direct connection already to the divine. You were already channeling divine forces, at least as far as you're concerned, you were. You're writing scriptures. You're creating this entire religious movement. What do you need Freemasonry for, then? What is the point?
Well, and then I'm reminded of the conversation we had about Adam Weishaupt, that maybe he saw taking over Freemasonry as the fast track to establishing Mormon churches all over the United States. That if he could infiltrate it in that way, change people's hearts and minds to the prophetic vision he was having, it would be the fastest way to create a national, church organization.
Well, very good idea. It could have been strictly a political maneuver.